this man didn't expect to find something during his walk. As time passed by, he was surprised to find out that the animal he took in wasn't a puppy. When Audrey Muzanko woke up on a cold winter morning, the first thing he thought about was warming himself up with some exercise. He wasn't in the mood for anything too strenuous and eventually settled on a nice long walk. Fortunately for him, he lived in one of the more remote areas of Siberia, and there was a forest located behind his house. The man slipped on his boots, grabbed his thickest coat, and headed outdoors. Andrew followed a clear footpath where many people before him had walked, and where many more would follow him. He visited the woods often, and his journey was always the same. On this day, he wanted to try something different, so he took a left and went down a path he had never seen before. The trees seemed wider in this new area, and they were very tall. Andrew could only see a little bit of sunshine peeking through the leaves. All of a sudden, Andrew heard an unusual sound. Even though it was faint, he could already tell it was a cry for help. He followed the sound, since it wasn't too far from where he was. It didn't take long for him to find the source. Curled up against a tree was a baby animal. It was a puppy, and its eyes were closed. It looked no more than a few weeks old. Andrew couldn't imagine why anyone would abandon a helpless creature in the middle of a forest. The sight broke his heart. He stepped closer to the shivering animal with outstretched arms. He picked up the puppy and held it close, hoping his gloved hands would be able to provide some warmth to the poor animal. He didn't have any time to think about anything other than keeping the pup safe. Andrew rushed home. As the man rescued the abandoned puppy, his gut feeling told him that this was going to be one of the most important things he had ever done. When he finally arrived back at his house, he took out some blankets and wrapped the ice-cold puppy up. He ran around, turning on the heating and collecting some water. After a few minutes of being under Andrew's care, the puppy had stopped shivering. It already looked like it was in a better state. Andrew called the local vet and asked for a checkup. He wanted to make sure the animal was healthy and happy. Andrew had known the puppy for only a few hours, but he could already tell they were going to become very close. Once again, he didn't really think his plans through and simply trusted his instincts. He adopted the stray pup and named him Akela. Over the next few months, Akela grew larger. Andrew noticed that this new pet had a big appetite, which had been that way since the first day they had met. However, Akela's hunger only grew with time. Andrew knew that young animals required a lot of nutrients. In particular, canines and other mammals needed to feed on a regular basis to sustain their energy and weight. Yet, Akela's eating habits continued to surprise Andrew. As Akela grew bigger, his facial features seemed to sharpen, but his body shape grew wider. One thing that began to gnaw at Andrew's mind was Akela's breed. It was a mystery he couldn't crack. It was just a little bit of curiosity, since he had never seen a dog like Akela before. Andrew had a lot of friends who were dog owners, so he turned to them with this burning question. They had no clue. They were just as confused as Andrew was. He sent people pictures and videos of Akela at different stages, hoping someone would have an answer. Yet, his efforts were in vain. Something as simple as figuring out a dog's specific breed ended up becoming an impossible challenge. As a final resort, Andrew reached out to an animal expert. The expert asked for a meeting in person, so she would be able to identify what breed Akela was. Soon after, Andrew and Akela were in the car, driving towards the expert's location. Andrew walked into the practice with Akela on a leash. After speaking to the receptionist, he was directed to the expert's room. As he walked in, the expert's jaw dropped. The woman couldn't believe her eyes. Andrew had spent all that time thinking he was raising a puppy, only to find out later that it wasn't a dog. It turned out Akela was a wolf. To make matters even more intriguing, Akela was not just any random wolf, but a Eurasian gray wolf, a species well known to be the largest canine on Earth. Wolf cubs and puppies share many resemblances, so it was only natural for Andra to make that mistake. However, as Akela grew older, it became almost undeniable that he was a gray wolf. The animal expert explained to Andra that the size difference was one of the key things to look out for. After finding out the true species of his dear pet, Andra had to consider Akela's well-being. Many people find the idea of a tamed wolf intriguing. Word about Akela had reached the local zoo, and zookeepers started bombarding Andra with phone calls and emails, trying to convince him to send Akela to the zoo. Andra had heard stories about zoos, which made him reluctant to step inside one, let alone give his friend up to one. The alternative option was also unappealing. Many people encouraged Andra to release Akela back into the wild, some of them fearing for the safety of Andra and his neighborhood. Andra was unsure about this, since there was no guarantee Akela would be safe in the woods. He remembered the first day he met the wolf cub. Akela was left all alone to fend for himself. Even though some people would argue it was the most ethical thing to do, Andra had reasons why he didn't believe that was the case. Instead, the best choice seemed evident. Akela had already spent so much time with Andra and adapted to a new lifestyle. It only made sense to let the wolf stay with him. Andra had already taken ownership of the wolf, and it didn't feel right to give him up. At first, Andra's family was hesitant about his choice to raise a wolf. There are a lot of potential dangers when interacting with wild animals. Wolves, in particular, can be unpredictable. They are often feared for their carnivorous hunger and brute strength. Nevertheless, in the time that Andra had gotten to know Akela, the canine had never shown even a hint of aggression towards any human. Andra felt there was nothing to be scared of. Akela was just like a domesticated dog. It had been over 1.5 years since Andra adopted Akela, and they had grown to become inseparable. Andra chose to follow his heart instead of listening to the judgments of others. Eventually, his friends and family fully supported his decision. Andra was grateful that he had come across the young creature in the woods, and Akela was grateful that someone had found him. To this day, they live together in Andra's Siberian home, as happy as they could possibly be. In fact, the relationship Andra formed with Akela inspired him to help other wild animals in need. Andra created several wild animal bases across Russia where gray wolves can live safely. These bases have grown in popularity, and there are now a range of canines resting there, such as foxes and coyotes. Andra's work has saved the lives of countless creatures. In order to get more people to sympathize with canines, Andra turned to social media to share his experiences. He has a successful Instagram account called it Black Canadian Wolf with over 100,000 followers. On a regular basis, his online fans are treated to countless pictures and videos. The internet is the perfect place to spread awareness about the protection of canines. The story of Andra and Akela has touched the hearts of people all over the world, and I hope it has done the same for you. It would be great if you could leave a comment down below, telling me what you thought about the story. Remember to leave a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one, and I hope to see you in another video. Take care.